February 2nd, 2018. This video is called, Did Fukushima Cause a West Coast Beachfront Real Estate Meltdown? And I know there's a lot of factors that determine the value of property and houses, but this one area in Oregon, and it might be along the whole West Coast, I ain't got time to check everything out, but the main part that the Fukushima radiation is hitting in Oregon, Tillamook, the housing values are doing the exact opposite of the national trend. So I really don't think people are leaving because of Fukushima. You never know, because I think a lot of people are in the dark on it. But this made me think on this article written about the cesium that was found in the tuna. Now check out this comment. It says, "What the Fukushima? We were planning on moving to Ocean Shores, Washington. We found the real estate was really cheap. Then we found out why. The Japanese current hits the beach there. The Fukushima driftwood came across first, and the radiation plume is moving much slower. You won't hear about it from the mainstream media because that would devastate the West Coast. Never had this kind of problem, and they don't know how to fix it. So this is going to continue." But look at what I kind of found out here, and let me know if you think the same what I'm thinking about this. Now here is a headline from 2016. It says that the Fukushima radiation is detected at Tillamook Bay and Gold Beach shores. Now here are the coordinates, the latitude and longitude of Tillamook. It's in Oregon. It's a little city of only around 5,000 people. Now, here is Japan, Fukushima, and here is Tillamook, and it's only 4,796 miles away. And just imagine these little bits of radiation that are in the ocean coming out like 300 tons of radioactive water a day is polluting the oceans, and somehow it came from here. What used to be in Japan, what happens in Japan doesn't stay in Japan. Here is Tillamook right here. Believe it or not, it made its way all the way through here. All the so-called scientists are downplaying it, saying that there's no health effects, but I would agree different. And you're going to have to make the decisions if you're going to live on that West Coast, whether it's worth your health or not. Now, let's go over real quickly the amount of radiation that actually was at Fukushima, astronomical amounts, and we exactly don't know how much is where. When it blew up, the stuff went flying. The stuff went into the air, it went into the ocean, and they have not only the reactor pools, but they have these common shared storage pools. It says there's a larger common spent fuel pool that's used to store spent fuel from all 6 reactors at Fukushima. Now remember, they've been storing 30 years of fuel rods over there. It says that it currently has 6,375 spent fuel assemblies. Now there's approximately 60 fuel rods in each assembly. So we're looking at look at this number, 382,000 spent fuel rods were at Fukushima. Now, like I said, some of them were tossed about, some were vaporized, and some melted down. Now, this is just in the spent fuel pools. Now, there also were the reactor cores. Now, if you look at this picture here, it looks like some of these are the fuel rods. They don't look like it was the wire that was in the concrete. Now, how or what they did with these fuel rods is beyond me. This is just one of the most scariest pictures, I think, of Fukushima. But if you look over here on these emails, the FOIA emails from the Hillary Clinton years, right here, subject, Japan, you still here? Says they couldn't sleep last night. She texted this person about Unit 4. It's a fire in the spent fuel pool. Catastrophic. Now, this is what was in the reactors, the tons of nuclear fuel. And you could add this up. There's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, about 600-700 tons of nuclear fuel that was in the reactors. Now, the storage status at Fukushima Daiichi was basically about 1,700 tons of uranium. Now, unlike the other 5 reactors, Reactor 3 ran on mixed core containing both uranium fuel and mixed uranium and plutonium oxide. That's what MOX fuel is. Now, plutonium is the deadliest isotope on the planet. Don't take much to kill you. Now, here is a diagram of the reactor where the fuel rods are and the spent fuel pools. Now, here is the building here. As you can see, there's really nothing left. It's just a scattered mess. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the spent fuel storage pond, it's on fire. Radioactivity is being released directly into the atmosphere. It took 4 days for it to hit the West Coast. All coming from this place over here. This is what I find amazing, is that stuff traveled all the way across this vast ocean to the West Coast. The impending arrival of radioactive contaminants from Fukushima has raised concerns among coastal residents in the United States and Canada, but oceanographers and radiation so-called experts say the radiation levels will be too low to threaten human life. I beg to differ with that statement. These levels are clearly not a human or biological threat in Canada. Fukushima's radiation reached coastal Canada first because of the powerful Kuroshio current, which flows from Japan across the Pacific. The plume will then flow down the coast of North America and circle back towards Hawaii. That's what the models predict. Now, this current, it's a north-flowing ocean current of the North Pacific Ocean. Now, here is the current right there. Goes in a clockwise motion. Now, there's a strong surface oceanic current of the Pacific Ocean. Northeasterly flowing continuation of the Pacific North equatorial current between the Philippines and the east of Japan. This is a little diagram over here, and you could see basically this, as the radiation comes out, it's being distributed and is just going to be continuously go around in circles, and eventually, since this thing's going to be leaking forever, this North Pacific Ocean in 20, 30, 40 years is, if anybody's left, is just going to be a nightmare. Now, here's the null school, and it's showing you that current right here. Now, this right here is the coordinates of Tillamook, which is right over here. And if you could see, this is where Fukushima is right here. And as it's leaking all this radiation, and remember that they're looking to dump about 100 million tons or gallons of that radioactive water that they've been collecting all these years, they're going to dump it right into the ocean. And once it gets dumped in there, where do you think it's going to end up? It's going to end up in these currents. And if you follow these currents, look where it's going to end up. It's going to end up right along, everything's along the coast here. Also along the Mexican coast, Alaska, Canada, British Columbia. And you could see once it hits the coast here, it works its way. And look at where it ends up going. It flows right back to Japan. It's like the cycle of death. It's the conveyor belt of death is what this is. But then it goes into this cycle of death. Now, I'm going to get right to it, and here is the proof in the pudding. This is Ocean Shores, Washington. Now, I don't know if they're considering, before it was considered Washington or Oregon. But if you look over here, look at the prices, and I'm going to show you the national average and the housing bubble. If you look here in 2012, this house was worth $500,000, and whatever, it's only like 3 months, it lost 100,000, and each year it's not even, and then 4 months later it's worth even less and less and less. And look at down to 2017. It's only worth $100,000 now. And this isn't the only. Here's the Ocean Shores, Washington. Here's another piece of property. This is 1/3 of an acre oceanfront. And look at, in 2010, it was worth $250,000. 2012, the value is going down. 13, it's the same. It lost 30% by 2014, and 2017 it's worth $151,000. Here's another Ocean Shores. This is a 3-bedroom house. Price history. It was worth, look at this, in 2003 it was only worth $47,000. And then house pricing kind of started getting really crazy, and everything was increasing in value until we hit that bubble. But in 2011, it was worth $450,000, and then immediately, a year later, it's lost 5%. And if you go all the way up to today, or actually 2017. It's only worth $327,000 from $450,000. Here's another Ocean Shores, a 1/2 acre oceanfront. In 2014, $150,000, and in 2018, it's worth $129,000. Here's 4 bedrooms, 3 bath in Ocean Shores. 2002, it's worth $219,000. 2017, it's $475,000. But now 2018, it's $439,000. Everything is losing. Here is the Tillamook. Here is, this is where I'm talking about right there. Although they're saying, okay, there you go, Tillamook is in Oregon. Okay, so here is the results of the radiation testing of the ocean from this, our radioactive ocean from, this is, oh, we don't want to do that. Okay, so check it out. They've been testing water, the ocean water for radiation. And this is what they did in 2011. Now this is 2012. They took a boat and they were testing for radiation. Here is the cesium, 1.8. Way over by Japan, 3.6. 2013. Still their light detections, 1.4, 1.8. Over in Japan, 4.4. So the radiation is real. The cesium is real. Now they're doing some tests on more on along the west coast, and here is slight detectable levels of cesium-137. 2.8. 2016. 2.1, 1.6. I'm not going through all the numbers. There's definitely here, but here is what I'm trying to get at. Look at in 2017 how many times they, I don't know if they gave up testing or what. They only tested maybe less than a dozen times. And here is Pacific City, Oregon, 2.8. And they're all going to tell you that here is a 6.2. Cesium-137, and don't believe them when they tell you that it's kind of like about the radiation comparison to bananas and potatoes and walking in sunshine and getting on a flight to New York. That's how much radiation that it's about the same, or sleeping next to someone. Man-made radiation and natural radiation are two different ball games. It's apples and oranges. Now, this is the reason why I say it makes no sense, because this is where in 2006 you could see everything was hunky-dory, and then we had the crash, the market, the housing bubble, and look at everything took a shit, and it went all the way down. Basically, this is a national average, I think it is. In 2012 is when everything changed, and you could see everything is going up. And if that's the case, here's the housing bubble, they're saying, when it went down, which was the lowest it was ever in 2012. And if you look at this, ever since 2012, everything is going up. This is a national average. Everything is going up according to these the data. It even says, after 8 years, the real estate market is finally looking normal again. The beginning of the last decade saw an unprecedented spike in real estate prices, which culminated in the bursting of the real estate bubble in 2006 and the financial crisis to boot. Then came the crash. Prices fell precipitously, with the Case-Shiller Housing Index losing 33% from 2006 to the peak to 2012. But nearly just as quickly, investors flocked back to the real estate as they realized that getting in at the bottom could be a source of great profit. Since the beginning of the housing recovery 2 years ago, the Case-Shiller Index has regularly shown the national real estate market getting more than 10% pricier on a year-over-year basis. Ever since 2012, it's going back up again on the national average. Here is a national average right here. And you could see in 2012, even on a national average, everything is going up. If that's the national average, after 2012, these prices should be going up. But from 2012, which is a $550,000 listing, after 2012, the national average is everything is going up. But yet, look at how the loss, 18%, 14%, 45%. Look at that. From 2013 to 2017, it lost almost half of the value. Where it's down to, well, a house used to be $500,000. Now it's worth $100,000. That's what makes no sense to me. The national average is going up, but the real estate over along that beach there is going down. Now, this is what I wanted to show you in ending. UCLA study finds that advanced thyroid cancer rate in some California counties are well above the national average. Overall, in 35% of Californians with thyroid cancer, 6% points higher than the national average. That's just like those prices nationally. Thyroid cancer is higher on a West Coast state. So they're going to give you every reason except the obvious. So the reason for this video is just to give you a warning that if you feel like you want to go move down on the beachfront on the West Coast, just keep in mind, you might have a nice looking house there, but is your health worth it? And this is what I'm going to leave you on. You could try to find state resources. Like here, the California Department of Public Health monitored air and sand in response to the releases of radiation from Fukushima. And this is what I'm trying to find, is some hard proof of what are the test results. Who's measuring the beach sand? And I thought I found it right here, but if you cruise over here and click on the link, it's an error. The resource cannot be found. And I have you know why I think that is they scrubbed all the data. There's a lot of data that's been scrubbed since Fukushima, and the only way I could think is that they really don't want us to know what's going on. So this is coming out of the burbs of Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I'm living, and the only good thing about that is I don't have to worry about wildfires, earthquakes, or hurricanes. It might be pretty cold and pretty miserable, actually, living up north. But I guess I'll take that than living on some beautiful West Coast beach property, even though I can't afford it. I think I'd rather live in Cleveland, Ohio than living where it's basically Japan nuclear waste is washing up on your shore. So next time you go on the beach and you take your kids and go swimming and sticking their little toes in the beach, just remember that they're probably little pieces of cesium-137 in between those little toesy-woesies.